This episode, we've got the theme of childhood, but we're gonna kind of like put a little twist into it. So how about we analyze how relationships in our lives affected us, and like we'll kind of like go through childhood up until now. And then we'll also, so Beth is single and she's dating.
Yeah.
And then
So hit her up.
Yeah, look at her. She's beautiful. Thank you. So Beth is single. Obviously, Melanie has a partner. He was on the previous episode.
Yeah.
And how long have you been with Brody?
Apparently, we were twins in another life. So apparently, lifetimes we've been together.
That's a great answer.
Yeah. So
Great answer.
so yeah, lifetimes.
Your lifetime. Yeah, so basically, like, Melanie has dated around quite a lot before. So
Yeah, I
she's
was a
got. So there you go. So she's got the perspective
I
of
own
a,
it.
of an owning slut.
Yeah, owning that whole vibe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a vibe, and I enjoyed it, and I miss it.
Just
Sorry, Brody. Sorry,
got a bit of a free spirit.
He knows I miss it.
This is very open.
There you go. And then
It's a good
obviously, Brody. What? What? I mean, Selby.
I mean, we all share here.
So Selby's obviously gone through his, like, you know, we've got a male perspective here. He's gone through his fair share of being a bit of a fuckboy as well. So I guess basically
Friendships.
we'll have like different perspectives going on here, which I think is quite fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Sluts.
United.
the two sluts unite and talk about it.
Yes. We started a club, a Facebook group.
10,000
Sluts
members already.
United.
Just this week.
You're the admin,
Just
but you can't
yesterday.
actually like
Yeah.
take part.
Exactly. I've got a wee bit of like a sweat mustache going, so
The fan is like behind. So,
yeah, I can feel it from behind.
Melanie. Okay. Before Melanie gets too carried away with her sexual
Too
remarks, I'm just gonna kick it off by asking Beth, what was your childhood like?
My childhood was really great. And I think we were discussing this beforehand. My background is I grew up in rural Scotland. It was great. My family are religious from both sides, Scottish Protestants, but my parents were really chill. But I think what was interesting was, the community input that can really affect you for like decades after, so my parents were really chill, but I went to church and actually have like my best friendship group is from church, self-named the God Squad, but ironically like none of us go to church anymore.
That's a great
But
name.
it's a great,
Such
you
a
can't
great
change the group name after you've been having that group chat for a while. Great times, but what I think basically what I've had to unpick in my 20s was that kind of relationship that you start to have with yourself and other people through Christianity as a woman, where some people tell you, so I used to go to these Christian camps and they
I went to church camp.
and they were really fun. It was a wee bit of a fuck fest in a way, which is quite ironic, right? And they're telling you in quite a juxtapositionally way of that you as a woman, are supposed to be subservient. You're supposed to, just give yourself away to other people in a kind of caring way all the time, and you're supposed to wait to marriage and all these things. And you're basically, in my experience, we were kind of communicated to that we were maybe lesser than men, and you were told that obviously sex and that was wrong, and yet the value that they were kind of assigning you as a woman was that through men. So you were kind of trying to find that in a way. And so basically long story short, went to all these camps from like P4, so that's what, I don't know how old that is, like quite young.
8.
8.
Yeah, I was like 8. That's like Aldous is in P4, so he's 8. Like
that's it then. Yeah, from 8 to 18,
so young.
We had these great times in camp, but I think they kind of warped my sense of what relationships should be, knowing my self-value, and I basically started to look through that value through other people, especially men, because that's kind of what I was communicated to, which was a lot of fun I had a lot of fun, but it's also not the most healthy relationship.
No, yeah.
So that's kind of like one of the biggest themes, I'd say, on this topic for me.
Do you feel like guys that were in that kind of circle, like during your like church camp phase, treated you differently because they were taught to be that way? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I think so. And I think they knew, and you can still see it. I mean, we'll get on to dating later, but there's like Christian dating apps and that, and you can see you can see them doing it. And it's for decades I've experienced it. I think they know that they've got the power because there's genuinely less guys than girls in those cultures, or
so
particularly over here there is. And yeah, they're just like, oh, I've got all the cake and I'm just gonna no. And it's just like, for fuck's sake. But
Wait. Have you ever used one of those apps?
I briefly used, there's one called Salt, which is like aesthetically very pleasing, but that's where it stops for me.
Nothing is pleasing afterwards.
Yeah.
And is there like an expectation at all when you're on the app, like, oh, everybody knows that there's no sex before marriage, or like, is there any like expectations of this is what you are if you're on this app, other than being Christian?
Yeah, I think so. It's quite, I find it a wee bit cringe. It's very Christian, and it's just not fair. I feel like this is a huge tangent, but I have a friend that's on it at the moment, and she in her words said that someone communicated to her that they knew that she was on the second time rounders, so like the people that had been divorced, like the guys that had been divorced, and that they were coming back on it. And that was literally what this dude was like. It was like, oh, you're lucky there's these guys. And just like, no, that's not cool.
How old is she?
She's 37, so...
Oh, okay, so...
Yeah.
How dare you assume?
But these things, like, I think that's what I'm really realising at the moment, is it just starts really young, and you've got to be super careful, even in the best intentions. Like, my parents were like, oh, she really enjoys those camps, go off to those camps. And yet I'm just like, I kind of wish that I didn't, because...
Yeah, because it definitely helps like shape your mind in that sense. Like where I'm from the States, like down south, and it's heavily religious. Like genuinely, like if you don't believe in God and go to church, like where the time when I grew up, they were like, oh, you obviously worship the devil then. Like it was like so heavily like religion shoved down your throat. And I went to church camp. And I only went because all my friends were going. So I just wanted to hang out with my friends. And then you'd get to go to like, my family, we grew up, we didn't have like a lot of money or anything. So you would go to this like really fancy like Christian lady's house that had a huge house to like accommodate like 10 girls like for a sleepover. And it was really, really fun. But like, all I was focused on was just making out with boys that I knew. That's all I wanted to do. I was like, when can we I can pretend to be like, yeah, praise Jesus and stuff like that, and then run off and be like, do you want to go make out in the park? Like, do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. It's so heightened.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that. Yeah, because it was kind of similar for me. Like, you're like, this is the height of my summer.
Yeah.
This is the resources are all in this thing, and yet, as you said, you're just like, oh, the things that I want to do are not.
Yeah, so
all
I
these
just
things
need to get through this part so I can go and hang out.
Exactly, 100%.
And you're kind of at the age where you're kind of trying to experiment as well and discover yourself.
Exactly.
So to be in an environment where you have all of the possible distractions that you would want in that environment, it would be quite surprising, I think, now that I'm an adult, to be putting teenagers in that position and not expecting them
100%.
to, experiment or to do things that, you've already gone through.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just naive as adults, and that's why they allow children in those situations. Or they expect certain things.
Fight it with a wee bit of dabbling some shame in there.
Yeah.